Hi guys, how are you today? Welcome back to my channel, Adventures in America. If you are new to my channel, my name is Jocelyn. For today's topic, we are going to discuss the latest travel restrictions starting November 8th. We will also discuss the entry requirements, those who are allowed to travel, the vaccines acceptable, and the rules for unvaccinated children and unvaccinated Americans or US citizens, including a new policy regarding a specific mask that you needed to wear when flying to the US. But before we get started, please like this video, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I always welcome new subscribers. The Biden administration has officially announced that there will be a new US travel system starting November 8th. And this will be implemented especially for those countries currently included in the travel ban. So starting November 8th, passengers coming from 33 countries will now be allowed to travel in the US. However, there are strict protocols that needed to be observed when coming to the US. So foreigners or foreign nationals who are fully vaccinated starting November 8th will now be allowed to travel in the US. So these countries are China, Iran, and all of those countries included in the European Schengen area. So most of these countries have been included in the travel ban for the last 18 months. However, because of the changes coming November 8th, only those passengers that are fully vaccinated will be allowed to enter the US. There are also other countries such as the United Kingdom, including England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, also Republic of Ireland, and the other countries are Brazil, also South Africa, and the last one is India. So all of those passengers will now be allowed to travel in the US. Now let's talk about the entry requirements for these foreign nationals who will be allowed to enter. If you are fully vaccinated, you must present proof of full vaccination. Also, another requirement is that you needed to have a pre-departure negative coronavirus test within 3 days of flying. So these are the two requirements that you needed to have before coming to the US. And now airlines will collect personal information, including a phone number and email from all US-bound travelers for contact tracing. Also, please take note that airlines are required to keep the information on hand for 30 days so health officials can follow up with travelers who may have been exposed to COVID-19. Also, masking will still be required for all travelers. However, there will be no quarantine for fully vaccinated passengers. This rule has been implemented even before the new travel system starting November 8th. Now, let's move on to all passengers arriving by land from Mexico and Canada. The new travel system will start on November 8th, and all passengers arriving by land from Mexico and Canada will now be allowed to travel in the US as long as you are fully vaccinated and you can cross the borders for non-essential reasons, as long as you can present proof of vaccination such as paper or digital. Now, the vaccines accepted in the US are those vaccines approved for emergency use by the US Food and Drug Administration or vaccines approved for emergency use by the World Health Organization. Now, there are vaccines approved in the US by the US Food and Drug Administration, and these are the list of vaccines. One of them is Pfizer, another is Johnson & Johnson, and another one is Moderna. However, there are also approved vaccines for emergency use by the World Health Organization. Now, here are the list of vaccines: Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer or BioNTech, AstraZeneca, Covishield, Sinopharm, and Sinovac. There was also clarification from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. There are some passengers who have received mixed vaccines. Now, the CDC confirmed that it would accept a mix and match approach to vaccinations. So, if you are a passenger and you received different vaccines, you will still be considered fully vaccinated. Now, the CDC has yet to release information of how U.S. citizens who are foreign residents with vaccines not approved can enter the U.S. So, we will update you once the CDC has released the official information. However, previous announcements indicated that unvaccinated citizens or U.S. citizens will need to get tested within 1 day of flying. Now, there are also rules for unvaccinated children. It was confirmed that unvaccinated children will be exempt from the vaccine requirements. Now, currently, all U.S. passengers 2 years old and above, including U.S. citizens and permanent residents, need to show a negative COVID test. Now, what are the rules for unvaccinated Americans? Americans do not need to be fully vaccinated to board international flights to the U.S. Now, there is a new policy regarding mask requirements being issued by the U.S. Transportation Security Administration, or TSA. So, effective September 14. There is now a specific type of mask that you should use when traveling to the U.S. The U.S. Transportation Security Administration issued an emergency amendment which requires wearing of masks in and on airports, on commercial aircrafts, and in various modes of surface transportation to reduce the spread of virus due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The requirement is applicable to all passengers on board a commercial aircraft. This mask requirement is applicable to all crews and passengers, including vaccinated and unvaccinated passengers. This new mask requirement is effective September 14, 2021 until January 18, 2022. Now, I'm going to discuss the specific type of masks that are allowed. First, masks can be either be manufactured or homemade and should be a solid piece of material without slits, exhalation valves, or punctures. Now, what type of masks are allowed? Medical mask and N95 mask fulfill these requirements. There are also specific masks that are prohibited. A properly worn mask must completely cover the nose and the mouth of the wearer. A mask should be secured to the head, including ties or ear loops. A mask should fit snugly but comfortably against the side of the face. However, there are certain categories of persons exempt from wearing a mask. First, children under the age of 2. Second, people of disabilities who cannot wear a mask or cannot safely wear a mask because of the disability as defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Third, people for whom wearing a mask would create a risk to workplace health, safety, or job duty as determined by the relevant workplace safety guidelines or federal regulations. Talk about the requirements for negative COVID tests. So the negative pre-departure test could be a viral test such as an RT-PCR test or an antigen that was conducted on a specimen collected within 3 days prior to flight departure from a foreign country. The negative COVID-19 test or negative viral test must be approved or authorized by the relevant national authority for the detection of SARS-CoV-2. Now, there are specific wordings for this negative COVID test. The qualifying test result documentation confirm the personal identifiers such as the name and birth on the negative qualifying test result match the personal identifiers on the passport or other travel documents. The specimen was collected within 3 days prior to the flight's departure. The test performed was a viral test, and the test result states negative SARS-CoV-2 RNA not detected, or SARS-CoV-2 antigen not detected, or COVID-19 not detected. A test marked invalid is not acceptable. Also, there are some comments from the viewers asking if a certificate of quarantine is enough proof to come to the US. The answer is no. A certificate of quarantine cannot be used in lieu of a negative test or proof of recovery. Now, let's talk about the proof of recovery requirements. So, if a passenger has recovered from COVID-19, there are important requirements that you must do or submit as a proof of documentation. A passenger must provide a written documentation of recovery from COVID-19 after infection in the form of a positive viral test and a letter from a licensed healthcare provider or public health official stating that the passenger has been cleared. So that means that you must have a positive test result to submit the proof of recovery and a letter from a healthcare provider. The document of recovery from COVID-19 means that the passenger has presented documentation of a positive test result and a signed letter on official letterhead that contains the name, the address, and phone number of a licensed healthcare provider or public health official stating that the passenger has been cleared for travel. So any flight to the US, even if your connecting flight is in the US, must have a negative COVID test or proof of recovery. There are no exceptions. Now, let's talk about the quarantine requirements. Fully vaccinated passengers do not need to quarantine in the US. For those unvaccinated, the quarantine is 14 days, but you can do the quarantine in a rental facility or a hotel or at home. However, the quarantine requirements for unvaccinated passengers are only recommendatory and not mandatory in nature. There is an advisory for US citizens with an expired passport. You can now travel back to the US with an expired passport until December 31st, 2021. However, there are specific requirements. US citizens will be able to use their expired US passports to return to the US through December 31st. US citizens who are overseas, whose passport expired on or after January 1st, 2020, may be able to use their expired US passport for direct return travel to the US. However, if you have an expired passport, you cannot travel to any foreign country, destination, or territory. There are specific requirements that you must meet in order to avail of this special privilege for US citizens with an expired passport. First, you are a US citizen. Second, you are currently abroad, seeking to return to the US. And third, they are flying, or the US citizen must be flying directly to the US or a US territory, or only have a short-term transit through a foreign country on their return to the US or to a US territory. And the original or expired passport was valid for 10 years, or if they were 15 years of age or under when the passport was issued, their expired passport was originally valid for 5 years. Also, the expired passport must be in an undamaged and in their possession. Also, it has been announced that there will be a next generation US passport. So what does it mean? The United States has begun to issue the next generation US passport. Passports are distinguished by the color of the passport cover as well as annotations. All other security features remain the same throughout all types of passport book. So that means if you have a previously issued US passport, it is still valid until the expiration date. Also, there is now a new requirement for immigrants to have a COVID-19 vaccine starting October 1st, but you must wait for your medical examination before getting any COVID vaccine. And for those intending immigrants or have been issued an immigrant visa, either you must have the COVID-19 vaccine, or if you are going to adjust your status in the US, you must have the COVID-19 vaccine during your medical exam after October 1st. I actually have a full video regarding the COVID-19 vaccine for immigrants to the US. I'll recommend that you check it out if you have any other questions. Again, thank you guys for tuning into my channel, and if you have any other questions or comments, please post them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I always welcome new subscribers. I hope everyone is staying safe, and I'll see you in my next video.